Hey everybody, WV Guns and Goats here, and we have a tabletop video for you tonight. If you've been looking for a budget enclosed pistol sight, well, you might want to take a look at this one here by Aimwin. This is their PE330 red dot enclosed sight. It has multiple reticles, 3 MOA dot, a 40 MOA circle dot, and you can choose between dot, circle dot, and just circle. So you have multiple reticle options there. This is positioned to be a budget enclosed pistol sight, and Aimwin was nice enough to send this over to us for this video. Now, I hadn't heard about Aimwin until I was watching some SHOT Show coverage and saw them on there, and their product looked pretty interesting. So thanks to the people at Aimwin for sending this over for this video. Now, this is just going to be an unboxing video of the Optic itself and looking at some of its features. When the weather decides what season it's actually going to be, instead of going between spring and winter and just teasing us with some nice days, we will get this out to the range, mounted on a handgun, and do some shooting with it. Now, in the box here, it says it has an spherical lens, aim awake mode, side loading battery, low power indicator, parallax free, and it's made out of 6061 T6 aluminum. So let's go ahead, open this up, see what all it comes with, look at the sight's features, and if you haven't become a herd member yet, how about you go ahead and headbutt that subscribe button to join the herd here at WV Guns and Goats. Here's everything that comes in the box: a user manual, 2 wrenches, a Torx Allen wrench T10 size, a flat tip wrench for making adjustments to the windage and elevation. You get a CR1620 battery, and then 4 bags of screws right here. So this one's an M4 11mm, M4 9.5mm, M3 11mm, M3 4.5mm. Then you also get a microfiber cleaning cloth, and you get the Optic itself. Now, the nice thing about these baggies right here is they each have a little sticker on them that tells you exactly what's in each bag. So you don't have to guess of the sizes of these screws. It's just nice to know they're in there. And then if you get them and something is missing out of one of these baggies, it's easy to tell. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Optic itself. All right, we are zoomed in here on the PE330. Let's take a look at some of its features. Now, this is an RMSC footprint optic, so it's a very versatile footprint. You can get RMSC to RMR adapters, you can get Picatinny rail mounts for these, and this fits those smaller handgun slides that are RMSC cut, so very, very versatile footprint on this optic. For being an enclosed optic, it's very lightweight. They say it weighs about 1.16 ounces. It is 6061 aluminum, and it is hard coat anodized. Now, that allows it to withstand the elements, as well as having an IPX7 water resistance. Means it's going to stand up to most things that your handgun encounters, as well as a large temperature range of -22 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees. Both of those extremes are too hot and too cold, in my opinion, to be out there shooting. But say you throw your handgun and range bag in the trunk of your car and it gets beat on by the summer sun, well, it's gonna be able to stand up to that as well. Now, the dimensions of this little optic right here, well, you've got 40.8 millimeters by 30.6 millimeters by 25 millimeters with a 23 millimeter by 16 millimeter window. This is a nice size window. I don't think I'll have any issue using this out on the range when I'm trying to get that reticle on my target. But as always, I put those measurements on the screen in their imperial system measurements if you're not familiar with the metric system. But how about the battery life on this optic? Because that's pretty important, isn't it? It's battery powered, so it needs to have a good battery life. And they claim 20,000 hours on a lower brightness. Now, this does have 11 different brightnesses. 2 of those brightnesses are night vision brightnesses, and 9 of those are daytime bright levels. And that's good because this does not have an auto brightness adjustment feature. It will not read the light conditions around it and adjust the brightness to them. Some people like that feature and some people don't like that feature, but this Optic does not have it. So you're going to have to manually set your brightness level. And that leads into the controls on here. We have a plus and a minus, and these control everything that this Optic does. So plus and minus, of course, adjust the brightness. However, if we press and hold the minus button, the Optic will turn off after a few minutes, and it will ignore the motion sensing shake awake. However, if you press the plus button, it will come right back on to the last brightness setting you left it on and the last reticle that you left it on. Now the reticles in here are a 3 MOA dot and a 40 MOA circle, and you can cycle between just that dot, the circle with the dot in the center of it, and just the circle. And you do that by pressing and holding the plus button here. And after a few moments, it will cycle to the next reticle, and then it will cycle again to the next reticle after that. Now, one thing that this does not have, though, is a lockout mode. So if you're carrying this and those buttons get pressed, they're going to do their job at adjusting the brightness of this Optic. And they may even adjust the reticle itself, depending on how long these buttons are pressed for. So I'd really like to see a lockout mode added to this Optic if you're going to carry it in a holster, because those buttons do stick out just a little bit. Even though they are clicky and they're sharp clicks, they're not mushy, they do stick out just enough from the Optic for me to catch a fingernail on them. So there is a chance that they could get pressed while you're carrying this around. Now on top of the Optic, we do not have a solar panel there. We do have an elevation adjustment. And then of course we have our rear lens right there. On the right side, we have our battery compartment. Now this came with a 1620 battery installed in it and a spare CR1620 battery in the box. So it's ready to go with a battery in it, and you get a spare battery. So that's pretty nice that they threw that in there. Now it is held closed by these two screws right here. However, these screws are fairly shallow and they are not retained in here. They are not captive screws. So you're going to want to keep checking them every so often to make sure they're tight, because there is a chance they could loosen up and fall out of the Optic, and then your battery door would be loose and then stuff could get into the battery compartment there. So just keep those screws checked when you're checking your gun. When you do loosen those screws, you can stick this little flathead right in these little cutouts there and pry out the battery door, and then you can pull it out with your fingers if you need to change the battery. Now when it comes to the adjustments on here, we have our windage here and we have our elevation right here. Now these are 1.5 MOA adjustment per click, and they are click adjustment. They're a nice, firm, sharp click to them, and they are tactile, and they're even a little bit audible when you're making your adjustments. It's really nice to see on a budget red dot that it has click adjustments, because I've dealt with the really budget Optics of this size where you have to put like a sundial gauge on here, and you have to hope that you're making the same adjustments each time. You're starting where you left your adjustments off the last adjustment you made. It's just a pain to deal with those. These click adjustments are really nice to have on here because you can tell that you're actually making adjustments to the Optic. Now, one more thing about this Optic I really like is the height of this deck right here. The Optic height, it's not super high. So there's a good chance that this Optic will co-witness with the factory iron sights on the pistol that we're going to be putting it on, and we won't need something like suppressor height sights. So it's nice to see a fairly low deck height on this Optic that should allow co-witness on multiple different pistols. But that is something that we're going to have to check out when we actually get it out of the range, because it could look nice here on the tabletop, but if it doesn't do good under live fire, well, it's not worth buying, is it? We're just going to have to wait until Mother Nature gives us a nice enough day to actually get out to the range. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about the PE330, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them, having not actually used this optic under live fire yet. But maybe somebody has a question that I can better answer when we actually get out to the range. As always, everybody, thanks for joining me for a look at the PE330. This has been another WV Guns and Goats video. And as always, if you're not out there having fun shooting, well, what are you doing?